Good morning, and thank you. Welcome to Peregrine Global Services webinar, A Hard Look at Professional Skills. We are so pleased that you could join us today. So before we get started, I know that some of you may be more familiar with Peregrine than others, so I want to give you a little bit of background about who we are. The mission of Peregrine Global Services is to develop values-based leaders and impact the quality of higher education throughout the world. Now, a little bit about our history. We started as a leadership development company, leveraging our team's experience in industry and government to provide workshops and coaching. Our president and CEO, Dr. Olin Odekoven, was also serving as faculty, and he sat on a reaccreditation committee at North Central University. He was having difficulty finding good direct measures for student learning, and the dean challenged him to build it himself and quit complaining. So he and Mike Ewald built our assessment services, and we entered the academic world in 2009. Many of our current employees are current or former adjunct faculty members. We continue to build services based on our client requests and needs, and we've added leveling modules, academic writing modules, online leadership content. The list goes on. And then finally, in 2019, we established the Peregrine Global Foundation to continue to do good in the world long after we are gone, helping students around the globe access higher education. So thank you for joining us on this webinar and being part of our vision to change the world. Before we get started, let me introduce myself and my colleague PJ Burns. I'm Christina Perry. I am the project portfolio manager at Peregrine Global Services. Been with the company about 5 years, and I am tasked with sort of being an interface between our clients and our development team. Keeping my ear to the ground, see what you guys are looking for, and then helping develop new educational content and assessment services. I am also a student myself. I'm pursuing an EDD with Vanderbilt University in leadership and learning in organizations. So I get to look at things from the student perspective too. And PJ?
Thanks, Christina. My name is PJ Burns. I'm part of our client engagement team. I'm a client engagement advisor here at Peregrine. I've been here just a little bit over 6 years, and just my background comes from business and industry. I worked for chambers of commerce throughout the state most of my professional career before coming here, and for nonprofit organizations. And so I've been really involved with promoting leadership, promoting business and industry. And that's why I'm especially excited to be on this call with all of you today on the academic side of our company. So thanks, Christina, for having
Yeah.
me on here, and we'll be talking with the rest of you about halfway through the program.
Yeah, and PJ really has done a great job with coaching and advising people as they do leadership development. So this is a nice transition for students leaving higher education and entering the professional world. So our webinar will be broken into three sections. First, we're going to look at professional skills, what they are and why they're important to graduates entering the workforce. And then second, we will look at methods to align your assessment to your learning outcomes. Oh, there we go. And that helps you demonstrate your student achievement and also identify areas where you might want to improve your program. And finally, we're going to look at ways to better develop professional skills and give your students a chance of success upon graduation. So we're going to have some poll questions. We ask you to kind of vote and respond to those as they come up. If you have any questions or comments, you can type those into the question bar or the chat panel. Also mention my colleague Sarah Bailey is with us today, and she'll be monitoring that in case you have any technical difficulties. She can respond, but we will have a question and answer period closer to the end of the webinar. Okay, the first section is on professional skills and their importance in the workplace. I thought this comic was pretty cute. So if you look at the drawing here, we have someone saying, "Yes, I think I have good people skills." What kind of idiot question is that? It may be a lighthearted cartoon, but there is some truth in the idea that a person's interpersonal competency and professional skills can be the determining factor in getting a job, and they can most certainly be the cause of losing one. In the following section, we'll look at the importance of professional skills in building strong relationships that embrace diversity, promote collaboration, and help teams pursue innovation in a rapidly changing world. So, what do we mean by professional skills? Professional skills are a combination of people skills, social skills, communication skills, and character or personality traits that enable you to navigate your environment and will work well with others. Many professional skills are characteristics of servant leadership, and those characteristics include listening, empathy, awareness, persuasion, stewardship, and community building. These have been shown to be highly effective in fostering the development and well-being of colleagues and achieving long-term organizational goals. So these are characteristics and traits that not only help the person who can successfully demonstrate them, but also improve the workplace and the organization around them. So what do leaders say? This is a little snippet of information that's based on a 2019 study from the Carnegie Mellon Foundation that Fortune 500 CEOs find that 75% of a person's long-term success depends on their interpersonal skills. Only 25% depends on technical knowledge. People are hired because they tend to fit in with the culture and the way an organization wants to work together. Most interviews today focus on professional skills rather than spending time asking detailed questions about technical skills. The basic technical skills shown on a resume often get you in the door, they get you the interview, but it is who you are as a person that determines your success in an organization. In the past, workers were hired and promoted based primarily on their technical or functional skills. Organizations are now placing greater emphasis on less tangible qualities, such as good communication skills, teamwork, positive attitude, and leadership. Research has also shown that interpersonal or professional skills are more accurate predictors of success than conventional intelligence levels or hard skills alone. On this slide, we see the top skills employers are looking for in new graduates entering the workforce. This is a 2019 report from SHRM, the Society for Human Resource Management, in which human resource professionals indicated which skills were most often missing in new hires. Problem solving, communication, critical thinking, innovation and creativity, and the ability to deal with complexity and ambiguity. So NACE is the National Association of Colleges and Employers, and it's an organization that forms a bridge between higher education institutions and human resource professionals. Through an interactive process involving both higher education and HR recruiting staff at more than 600 employers, NACE has identified 8 competencies that represent what career service professionals should be helping their students achieve and what employers are broadly looking for in their ideal candidates. Peregrine has developed leading edge learning modules that cover a broad range of topics under these categories. And these can be resources for higher education to further develop their students' professional skills. And here you see the examples. Critical thinking and problem solving was one of those missing skills. And now we're seeing increasing emphasis on global and intercultural fluency and valuing diversity, for example. So let's discuss some of the top skills that employers look for in new hires and that have the greatest impact on workplace success. Communication, critical thinking, leadership, and teamwork. You'll find these professional skills are often listed in intended learning outcomes across institutions, but assessing student achievement on these particular skills can be rather difficult. So later in our presentation, we are going to look at ways to quantify something which may at first glance seem intangible. For now, we're just going to look at what each of these skills means to young professionals. So communication, how well do you communicate? Employers value employees who can not only communicate their own ideas, but who listen empathetically to others. Communication has a subset of soft skills that include verbal and nonverbal communication. Does your nonverbal communication match what you're saying? Can you read others' body language to ensure their understanding? Listening. Listening is 50% of the communication process. When engaged in a conversation, many of us are so busy thinking about our own response that we're not truly listening. Conveying to the other person that you're truly listening to them can help diffuse a tough situation and it can help people feel more valued. Negotiation and persuasion. With the pace of change in the world today, the ability to communicate a change, vision, or new direction and get people on board is vital in today's workplaces. Approaching conversations with greater inquiry and advocacy can help find a win win solution. And then finally, presentation and writing skills. These may seem more like hard skills, but using your ability to read your audience and incorporate emotional intelligence into your presentations and business correspondence will increase respect and strengthen relationship building. So, critical thinking. No matter what the job, employers want candidates who can analyze situations and make informed decisions. Critical thinkers use their abilities to be adaptable, creative, and innovative. They approach problem solving in collaborative ways and use their willingness to learn to make the right decisions. I also want to point out that critical thinking involves systems thinking. It's looking at the entire system that is producing the observed outcome and not jumping to conclusions or solutions before we have all the facts. So, critical thinking also depends on communication and gathering data and input from multiple sources to analyze the root cause of problems. Leadership. People think leaders are often only those that are higher on an organizational chart or have a title such as manager, supervisor, or director. But leadership can be found in every position within an organization. The ability to step up to the plate in a difficult situation, make sense of it for others, and to help resolve a problem is a valued asset in today's working environment. I'm sure we all have a person in our personal or professional lives who's kind of that go-to person who can help, whether or not they have a formal title. They have that influence. There are a whole host of soft skills that fall under the definition of leadership. For example, conflict management and resolution. That's keeping a cool head during conflict and working with others. Being able to make thoughtful decisions in a timely manner. The ability to delegate and empower others to make decisions, providing clear and helpful feedback to others when needed, inspiring others by communicating a vision, the ability to manage effective meetings and not waste people's time, mentoring, the desire and ability to foster changes in others, project management and being efficient stewards of time and resources, and finally, successful supervision of others, not micromanaging, but guiding people in their quest. So teamwork. This is the last of the four that we were going to talk about. Whether an employee participates in a lot of team projects or simply attends a few departmental meetings, they need to be able to work effectively with people around them. This includes being able to work with others even when you do not always see eye to eye. And I think, as we recognize in today's climate, especially when you do not see eye to eye. Skills related to teamwork include the ability to accept feedback, collaborate with others with the mission in mind, recognize and appreciate diversity in a team, and regulate your emotions and read the emotions of others to build relationships that will generate productivity. So, what professional skills matter most, particularly in higher education? The first step is to determine where you have set learning outcomes related to professional skills. I've reached out to some of our client institutions and gathered learning outcomes, and some of them include examples such as students will communicate clearly, effectively, informatively, and persuasively to diverse audiences. There's another one I saw that was students will develop and promote in others an appreciation for individual diversity of thought and values. So, with these types of learning outcomes, assessment is best achieved through external evaluation rather than relying on students' perception of themselves. Some of you may be familiar with the Dunning-Kruger effect, and you know that people tend to overrate their ability in areas they know little about. It's only when they learn about that skill that they recognize how much room for improvement they have. So, assessing student performance is part of the assurance of learning process, but it's how we use the data that really matters. Students can use the assessment of their professional skills. They can use those results to highlight their strengths and build professional development plans. But program administrators can use group results to see where their students are hitting the mark and what areas they can promote and develop in future cohorts. So at this point, I'm going to take a moment and launch a poll. We've talked about four different professional skills. Let me get the poll out here. Just take a moment, if you don't mind, and vote. Which of the following skills do you feel you do the best job developing in your students? And I think as you vote on this, it'll be interesting to see which skill gets the fewest votes, because that might give us an idea of an area that you think might need further development. So I'll just give this a moment more. We've had about half the people vote. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and close this now and share the results. So it looks like most of you are developing critical thinking, and that is interesting because that is one of the things that we hear most often needed in the workplace, and it's also an area that I've heard in conferences that's it might be developed, but it's hard to assess. So that's something that we'll look at further here. Leadership, maybe particularly for undergraduate programs, it might be understandable where leadership might be an area that lacks. So I'm going to go ahead and hide this for now, and let I'm going to turn the microphone over to PJ, who can take the next section of the presentation on assessing.
Thank you. Thank you, Christina. Very nicely done. Hello again, everyone. I'll be talking to you about how to assess those professional skills. As Christina had stated, these types of skills are much more difficult to assess. They're somewhat intangible. One person can have a slightly different definition or understanding of these particular skills, like what is leadership, what really makes for good teamwork and good communication. So Peregrine does have a couple of tools that can help with evaluating these professional skills as well as of growing them as well. And we'll discuss uh, each of these a little bit further. So um, Peregrine's EValue Skills Assessment is the tool that we have used in order to evaluate these professional skills or soft skills. It is an objective 360-degree assessment tool that universities are using to assess the professional skills of their students. Business and industry have used these to assess the professional skills or soft skills of their employees. And it also includes a comprehensive results report to help set goals and timelines and for individuals to improve their professional skills. But it also can be used for programs to assess if the program is assessing such skills and where you need improvement as well of those programs. So why a 360-degree evaluation process? Peregrine has been using this type of process to help people with their professional development um, for about 15 years, or as long as Peregrine has been in existence. And going back, this type of professional skill or soft skill assessment has been used, this model of 360 degree, where you get feedback from multiple people. For example, in a business situation, you would get feedback from your supervisor, you would get feedback from your peers, people at the same organizational level as you, as well as getting feedback from your subordinates or your employees that are a direct report to you. And that style or mode of evaluating these types of skills has been used in business and industry since the 1950s. So as Christina stated, before you start the process of assessment, you want to identify or define what professional skills you want to your students to have when they leave your program. Um, You may want to look towards some of the organizations that Christina has quoted who have done employee studies. You may want to use those 8 skills that are defined by NACE that we looked at, or look to specific industry studies like healthcare, for instance, and look for input from those specific employers on what they're seeing their new hires lacking in, or what creates the most influence or the best employee within that industry, and look at assessing those so those can be further developed in your programs. Once you identify what skills are most important, you can utilize the expertise of our team here at Peregrine to customize your instrument. In our value skills tool, we have a database of over 200 plus skills and corresponding rubrics of professional skills to choose from to create your very customized survey to send out. And if you can't find what you want, our value skills tools also allows you to develop your own skills and rubrics and add them to your survey or your assessment that you want to send out. So professional skills, as we've said before, are more difficult to define. One person may think of critical thinking as one thing, another person may define it as another thing. So each one of our professional skills, as I said, have rubrics, but they also have behavior examples. So when a person is taking this survey, evaluating one of the students or a fellow employee, this particular example that's on the screen is about critical thinking and problem solving. And they're asking if that individual demonstrates originality and inventiveness. And as you can see, it's rated on a Likert scale, 1 being unsatisfactory, 5 being exceptional. So in this example, if I'm going to rate Christina a 4 or excellent in demonstrating originality and inventiveness, I have seen her, as the second column shows, involving others in brainstorming, both inside and outside of the organization. And I have seen Christina seek alternative viewpoints to explore possible courses of action. So as you can imagine, assessing professional skills, um, it's hard to gain objectivity. And because that person taking the survey sees what the definition or the rubric of the expectation is, as well as some behavioral example, we have decreased that subjectivity of such an assessment and made it as objective as possible. Now, also when a person is filling out the survey, under each assessment item is the option to include comments. And so that gives the individual, the supervisor, the peer, even the employee, sometimes when students are taking it, they've got professors giving them feedback. They also have possibly counselors giving them feedback, their employers from their jobs that they're in, mentors, folks that they are interning for, and there's an opportunity for them to leave a comment to help them to understand why they answered what they did, or to give them tips on how they can improve. And so that's an important part of our value skills tool. So once the evaluation is done, the participant or the student in our Value Skills tool, we call them a participant, but the student will be able to download their comprehensive individual report. Showing here on the screen is an example of a snapshot of their total average scores across all of the skills or competencies that have been assessed. So they can see in a snapshot where they are excelling. For in this example, the willingness to learn is well above the 4 and well above their evaluator mean rating. But this knowledge management here at the bottom, you can see, is only average, and it may be an area that they want to address. Here you can see a rating page for an individual competency or skill. This example includes the self score. You see this blue number. This person on emotional intelligence gave themselves a rating of 4 on their emotional intelligence. You can see that individuals, group of evaluators, their average of this person is a 3.8. So statistically speaking, those are pretty close, depending on the number of evaluators. And then I also wanted you to take a look at this pink number. What this is a group average. So a group average is generated if the assessment has been administered to a group, like a particular class or a program cohort. Um, there is also, as an administrator of this, the option to print out a group report. And that group report will show where the entire cohort is strong, as well as areas for specific professional skills that need to be addressed. And so if you do an assessment of a cohort at the beginning of a program, for example, and then at the end of a program, you can generate a comparison group report that'll show you where your program may be excelling in teaching specific professional skills and areas that need to be addressed within the program if you administer the tool in that manner. So I wanted to talk for a moment just about the self-score as well.
Mhm.
So it's important for an individual to see where they score themselves versus where an evaluator scored themselves. I was doing we were doing a capstone series, a leadership capstone series where we teach a group of professionals over a 6-month period about leadership and how to improve their leadership competencies at work. And during the program, we provide them the opportunity to take an EValue skills assessment. And we do that at the beginning of the program and at the end, and we offer a mentoring session in the middle where we review their pre-program EValue skills report. And I was mentoring this gal and going through some of the items of particularly her strengths, because those are easier to grow than necessarily addressing weaknesses. So we're going through her strengths. And I noted that her evaluator group had scored her very close to a 5, which is the highest you can get on her listening competency. And she had scored herself a 3, just average. And I pointed that out to her, and she said to me, well, I listen just as good as the next person. And so this was kind of a blind spot for her, that her listening abilities can be of great influence and great leadership and great respect within the workplace. And she wasn't even recognizing it as being outstanding, although all of her evaluators, her group of superiors, peers, and subordinates felt that she was doing not just an excellent job, but an absolutely outstanding job of listening, and coached her into really developing or paying attention to that and what that meant to her coworkers and what an influence that can be for her and her leadership abilities. So it can be a blind spot on either side. Sometimes people can score themselves a lot higher than what their cohorts or what their evaluators say they do. And again, it can be a moment of self-discoveries for someone, either positive or negative. So another part of our value skills tool is in the individual report, it generates an action plan. And so this is extremely important in our opinion, that folks can use the tool that's provided to them after they get their evaluations back to show how they can improve those weaknesses and how they can build upon those strengths. And so the action plan shown here, the example of this is showing a weakness within their report. And you can see these items on the left that encourages them to put down some specific actions that they will take in order to improve this weakness. Also, a proposed timeline for improving that action, because if you set SMART goals, you set a timeline on when you're going to complete those actions. And then we encourage those individuals to find someone who can be a mentor or keep them accountable to those action items. If you can talk to someone about how you're going to go about improvement, set a timeline, and have those people help keep you accountable, it's more likely that you're going to meet those goals. Whoops, let's get back to where we were here. So no matter what assessment that you use, there's a host of 360 assessments out there. No matter which assessment you use, Peregrine, because of our years of experience in creating this tool as well to make it as objective as possible, I encourage you to find one with these 3 specific items in it. The assessment must be easy to take by the people that are filling out those evaluation surveys. Responses must be confidential. If someone is assessing someone else's professional skills, if they don't feel that it's confidential, especially in a workplace situation, they aren't going to be truthful, or as truthful as they would be if they know it's confidential. And also, number 2, the assessment must be as objective as possible. As we said, professional skills are difficult to define, and our value skills rubrics and behavior examples help to reduce that bias that is naturally occurring in assessing these skills. And the person receiving the feedback, number 3, needs to be able to fully understand it, as well as how to take action on both building upon their strengths and addressing their weaknesses and blind spots. So with that, thank you very much. I'm going to turn it back over to Christina, who's going to talk about developing professional skills and how Peregrine can help with preparing career-ready graduates. Christina?
Awesome. Thank you, PJ. That was a great overview. And I like how you can give the examples of how you've actually worked with people to recognize where they might have underestimated themselves and how they can actually, really, really let themselves shine in the workplace. But let's go ahead to the next slide. I'm going to So PJ talked about the participant reports where the student gets they get their scores from their average of, evaluator scores. They compare that to how they rated themselves. They see where they stand with the group. But the evaluate skills instrument also gives the administrator the ability to look at the group as a whole. So if you're administering this type of assessment, for example, in a capstone course for your graduating students, you can see where they really shine and where the program might use some improvement if that's an important learning outcome for you. So here, for example, we have from high to low, the different skills that were tested. And we see the career management skills. These students really know how to advocate for themselves in career management. But leadership skills, and this kind of goes along with what you guys said in your poll responses, leadership skills are lacking a little bit. We're a little bit below that average score. So that might show where we might need some improvement. So building professional skills, there are a number of ways that this can be done, but we're going to talk about the main way that you see time and again in literature is through experiential learning. So that's where the learner takes an active role by taking a concept or an idea or a technique and putting it into practice. They learn from their failures. Failure is not a problem. They can learn on that, get feedback, and then build towards greater success. So I'm going to give an example from my own student experience here. And this is something that we did in a class that I took last term called Data and Analytics. And I just want to tell you that this type, rather than just having the traditional lectures and tests, that type of study and assess yourself on it, this was problem-based learning. Our professor gave us the example of a grant competition, and we were assigned into teams of 4 people. 4 to 5 people. And the teams were to compete for a $5 million grant for an institution of their choosing. So the groups got together, they had to meet in off times. We were given, I don't know, about 6 weeks to complete this project, but we had to plan, define a problem, choose an institution, and then the proposal had to include a budget analysis, a strategic analysis, and a plan for if we win this grant, how we're going to make our project self-sustaining within 5 years. Once we had developed that plan and proposal, the whole team had to present to the entire class, and then the class voted on the winning proposal and provided feedback on all of the presenters. So what I really like about this approach for developing those professional skills is that it simulated a real workplace environment. Now I'm an online student. This is done primarily online. So we had to schedule our Zoom meetings and meet with our team much as I do in my professional life. It developed critical thinking in gathering and analyzing information and defining the problem. It really helped everyone hone their communication skills and their presentation skills. We didn't all have to present the same thing. We could each take a part of it, but we really had to be able to convince and share the vision with others. And then those leadership skills that we said are harder to develop. This taught students how to work on delegation and accountability, not letting the team down, and guiding everyone towards a collective goal. So that really does build on leadership. So additional method, oh, I made a typo in my slide there. Additional methods for developing professional skills. So we talk about experiential or action learning. Some of you are already doing internships or external experiences with outside businesses. In some business programs, there are school incubators for startups, getting students to work on their entrepreneurial skills. But one of the things I want to point out is simulation exercises. So in addition to simulation type projects that I just mentioned in the problem-based learning, online simulations, sort of gamification, is a way that you can really have students take an active role in their learning. There's another thing that we're not going to go deep into today, but Peregrine offers a strategy simulation called One Day, in which a student participates in this is a 6-episode game where they have to take the role of a young employee in an airline. They have to gather information from people in airports, on flights, from corporate offices, from industry reports, and propose a strategy that they present. So those type of simulations get the student to actually do the work rather than just learn and study. And the game itself was developed under the premise that students will learn just as much and perform just as well on exams if they do this simulation than if they sat through a semester long course on strategy. And the results that we found is that that's absolutely correct. So finally, in addition to the problem-based learning and the simulations, another way to develop professional skills is by providing specific content that reinforces key behaviors and skills. Integration of interactive content allows students to explore issues related to communication, managing conflict, diversity in the workplace, that type of thing. They can explore those on their own time and then expand upon those ideas in class. The way that Peregrine's leading edge learning modules are designed, they can be mixed and matched to address gaps in the curriculum. And each module provides learners with a completion certificate that demonstrates their knowledge. So we offer modules in each of those NACE 8 competencies. So if there are areas of professional skills you think that you would like to add into your curriculum, we have the online content that can be easily integrated into a learning management system. Our gift for you today for attending this webinar is free access to one of our leading edge learning modules. We're offering the module on leadership communications. This is content that helps students learn how to communicate non-defensively, how to read body language, how to respond to others, and really guide people in their communication. So we are inviting you to sample this online content, see if it might be something that could support your educational goals and help your learners develop those workplace competencies that will help them succeed once they leave the halls of academia.
It also gives some materials on how to present as well, Christina. So that
Oh,
leadership communications is everything from that listening and communicating professionally to how to give a proper presentation. So I know that students are using this at other institutions, and it's really helping them in their classes because, like you said, in your class you have to do a presentation, and that's not easily done for many people. So it provides some tips, tools, techniques, and outcomes for people to know how to do that.
awesome. Thanks. Yeah, I know you've used this both in leadership workshops and with academic clients. So that's
Yes.
great. And if you do want this, we're going to, the next poll question that comes up, we're going to offer you. If you want this, you just check. So let me go ahead and launch the final poll here. What do you need from us? So if you would like access to that free module, it'll kind of give you a taste of what some of Peregrine's content looks like. Go ahead and check that box. You can also check more than one box. If you were interested in that EValue skills assessment, for example, for evaluating workplace competencies, let us know if you want to call, if you want an email about that type of thing, or if you just simply want notification of upcoming webinars, keep you in the loop, we can do that. So if you can take a minute and respond how we can help you, we'll gather these results and be able to better follow up with you after the webinar. Yeah, we had PJ and I had a hard time choosing which module to give away. If you want to explore what else that Peregrine does offer, if you go to peregrineglobal.com, you can see there are different solutions for different competencies and kind of explore there. But this might give you a first taste. So I'll go ahead and it looks like we have most of people have about over 3/4 of people have voted. So I'll go ahead and close that out for now. And then we can get back to the presentation here. I think we've actually come to our question and answer section.
We have. Sarah, do we have any questions that are in the type box, in the chat
We
box?
do. So we have a comment from Jonathan Pierce. He says this would be awesome to implement with freshmen after their first year and then with departing seniors to see their progression. He also asked, I'm interested in receiving information and pricing concerning your assessments too. So he'd like that. And then Scott asked, is this for us or for our students? And I'm sure he's referring to the free module.
The free module is actually just for the webinar attendees. That's what we're looking at today. We wanted to give you a sample to see if this is something that you might like to implement in one of your courses, or to just maybe if it's not this module that you need in particular, you would see the way that Peregrine's content works. And then if you were asking about the assessment, whether that's for you or students, the answer, well, it's both. I mean, PJ has discussed the
We
way that
have.
people can use that for training for faculty and staff, for example.
We actually
But
had we had an entire not students, but an entire pharmacy department take advantage of the 360 leadership assessment to improve their cohesiveness and their leadership and analyze what they needed to do as a department to progress as fellow employees, you know, supervisors, professors. It was the entire department that they did the EValue skills for, and did some mentoring for them. And I think it really helped improve that entire department. So it can be used for administrative staffs, it can be used for entire departments. We've got schools using it exactly the way that the gentleman stated, that they use it at the beginning of a program, and then they do it the senior year at the end of the master's program to see how those students have progressed and to help them as they move forward in their professional careers.
We have a couple more. So Joseph said he's very interested in the LEL modules and different options for use and pricing. And then Michael said, please comment on assessment of students in an executive master's program.
ooh, Michael, that's a good one. And that's actually, I'm thrilled that you bring that up because I think that is the ideal place for, I mean, the EValue skills assessment can work for undergraduate students, it can work with faculty and staff, but we just finished a cohort with an executive MBA program in Poland, in Gdansk, Poland. They did a bilingual version of it. We had the assessment items translated for them, but it was really impactful. These students, that they're all working professionals that are participating in an MBA program, and they took the EValue skills assessment at the beginning of their program. They noticed some strengths and weaknesses, worked on that, and then they just finished their follow-up assessment a year and a half later, relying on feedback from fellow students, professors, but also from coworkers, subordinates, even their boss. And one of them was pretty hesitant to reach out to his boss to ask for feedback, but when he did admit that he'd been doing this program, it actually resulted in a promotion and a raise. So we think that it's very applicable, particularly for people who have a good a good group of people they can get feedback from that are experienced with working with them. So that is a great way to demonstrate you know achievement in your executive MBA program.
Then we have a question from Sal, and he asked, will this presentation be available?
I don't know. Should we make it available, PJ?
Absolutely. We are recording this, and I'll be sending a follow-up email out with the way that you can access that leadership communications at no cost to you individually, and also with a recording of this presentation if you care to share the presentation or watch it again.
And Tina said, I use case studies for developing some of the skills. However, it is very difficult to find those case studies.
Oh, okay. This is nice too, Christina. This is not something that I wanted to bring up in today's webinar because it's under development still, but we are working on Peregrine case studies that are going to be, some of them are micro case studies, so not the 20 to 50 page Harvard Business case studies that you might be using in some of your classes. Some of these might be shorter scenarios with some questions, some explanation, but Peregrine case studies is a new service that we should be launching in the next year or so, which would be something that you could sort by the type of competency that you're searching to develop and then implement those into your curriculum. So coming soon, we'll have more information on that.
Jonathan said, this was very helpful. I appreciate the info. And Tina said, thank you, much needed.
Awesome. Well,
I think that's it.
okay, PJ, do you want to show the next slide then? That has our contact information.
It does. If you want to reach out to us, we are at info@peregrineglobal.com. Again, you will be getting a follow-up email from me or Christina with how to access the module, as well as how to access the recording of this particular webinar. So, and check out our new website. I don't think Christina mentioned, we just refurbished our website. Our new website went live January 1st, And so take a peek at it at peregrineglobal.com. We invite you to come check us out and see what we're all about. And so appreciate your attendance this morning.
Absolutely. Thank you, PJ, for doing this with me. And you'll all of our attendees that joined us today, you'll be hearing from us with some follow up. And then if you want to shoot us an email or give us a call, we're here for you anytime. Thank you.
Bye-bye.